Hello, my name is Dave Burke. I'm a realtor with Exit Realty in the Bitterroot Valley. I'm specifically located in Hamilton. And the reason I'm making this video today is because as a expat architect and contractor from California, I wanted to share my impressions of the Bitterroot Valley after having been here about a year or so, and use this as an introduction to people who maybe want to purchase property here and who don't know anything about the valley and would like to know maybe where they would like to purchase a building. So, this is strictly my opinion of the valley. I rely sometimes on comments from old timers here in the valley that tell me different anecdotes about what's going on. But this is my opinion. It may or may not comport with others in the valley or other people who've been here for a while. But this may help you make an overall decision about where you might want to start looking when you do come here and retain me as your real estate agent. First thing that came to mind is that it's possible that most people don't know where the Bitterroot Valley is located. It's in western Montana, as you can see by this little map here, and it is extends below Missoula down to Darby, about 50 or 60 miles long by about probably 10 to 15 miles wide, and is considered the banana belt of the Montana area. This is a more close-up view of the Bitterroot Valley, and you can see that Highway 93 is the backbone of the valley. I refer to that a lot in splitting the valley between the east side and the west side. And I'll just be discussing in a few minutes exactly the differences between the east side and the west side, which could be an important consideration in where you decide to live. This next image is a topographic map of the valley. It shows Highway 93 in the middle. And on the east side, I want to point out a geographic feature that I call the view bench. And this is an area along the entire, or almost the entire east side of the valley that rises up 100 or 150 feet or so above the flats. And when you get up on this bench, you have a lot better view to the west of the Bitterroot Mountains. And a lot of people like it over here because it seems to be a little warmer as well. Well, not to beat a dead horse, I did take some photos of what this bench looks like. And these following three photos, I've sort of outlined the base of the bench up to the top. And it's not totally obvious along the whole length of the bench, but this gives you a pretty good idea the difference between the flat of the valley and what it looks like when you get up on the bench. Okay, this is the final 10,000 foot look at the valley. The first image is looking from south to the north with Lolo at the top of the image and Darby at the bottom, and you can see the Bitterroot Mountains on the left side and the flats of the valley and the bench on the right side. And then the second image is looking from the south to the north with Lolo at the bottom of the image and Darby and Sula way at the top of the image. There's one additional important feature of the valley that I wanted to point out, and that is the difference in climate between the west side of the valley and the east side of the valley that will probably be a big part of the decision you make on where to purchase your home. So on the east side of the valley where the bench is, as I've mentioned previously, it is warmer, drier, and more grassy and open space due to the fact that it tends to catch the afternoon sun all afternoon long. And so a lot of people like it over here because of the warmer climate. The west side, on the other hand, is cooler, a little wetter, and it is very forested. So if you like living in a forested area with lots of trees, and maybe up in an elevation because there are good views of the Sapphire Mountains from the west side looking to the east. And it should be noted, though, that it does get darker earlier because you'll be in the shade of the mountains as the sun goes down in the afternoon, and it does take a little longer for the snow to melt on the west side. So either way you go, whether you're a forest person or a plains person, this is something you probably want to consider when making your decision to purchase. Now I'm going to spend a few minutes just going down through the cities that are aligning Highway 93 down through the valley, starting with Lolo and ending up with Darby. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each one. This is just sort of a quick drive through, in my opinion, of what each city consists of and what you might look for to purchase in those cities. I'm now moving on to a discussion of all the little cities that are strung up and down Highway 93. First city is Lolo. It's what I would consider sort of a bedroom community for Missoula. And it is very commercialized on the main drag going through town. As you can see by this photo, there's not much to call it a town other than gas stations and commercial. So I suppose it would be easy to drive through and not know that you've been through a town. But when you get off the main drag, there are a lot of nice homes. When you go off to the east, there's a lot of older subdivisions that were built between the highway and the Bitterroot River. And here's a couple examples of those homes. And these are mostly older subdivisions, but they're very nicely maintained. And on the west side of the river, there are similarly aged homes, but they're more built up on hillsides and are maybe multi-story or split level on the hillside, and they have better views out to the east. So Lolo is the first one on the string of towns, and we'll move on down the road to Florence, which will be next. Next stop on our tour is Florence, which is about 10 to 15 minutes south of Lolo. It's close enough to Missoula to maybe be a bedroom community for Missoula. It's about, maybe 20, 30 minutes into town. And this is another one of those towns that doesn't seem to have any focused center business area. It's surrounding Highway 93. And as you can see from these photos, it's mostly gas stations and commercial that would identify this town. I've shown here a couple of homes that would be within the, I guess you would call it the city limits, even though it's not an incorporated town. These would be the homes that were built probably about the same age or older than those in Lolo in the city town area. And you can also see that it's very rural, very open, not a lot of fences, not a lot of curbs and gutters. And this is a sort of a nice, comfortable area to live. And however, a lot of the upscale homes and more expensive homes are out in the periphery of Florence in the east and the west. And I'll show you those here just now. This is an aerial view of the area east of Highway 93, which is where Highway 269 or the East Side Highway intersects in the middle of Florence, which I guess would be downtown Florence. But this area extends in the flat and then it goes up onto the bench on the more on the east side. But you can see here that there are many rectangular parcels, and I think that is a result of historical development of apple orchards in this area. I guess everybody had a 20-acre parcel for apple growing, and that industry has since gone away, but has left all these rectangular sites that have been since divided into 10, 5, and 1 acre parcels. And there are subdivisions in this area that maybe are parcels smaller than an acre, but they do have CC&Rs for some of these subdivisions. but there are quite a few of just fee simple lots out there where people have built a 1,500 square foot home on a 1 acre lot. And then you get a lot of the larger lots in this area. But you'll note that this is on the east side, very grassy, not a lot of forest in this area. And as you get further and further east, it gets a little drier as you get up on the hillside, but you do get better views up there. Following here are photos of some typical homes that are out on the east side. Uh, the first couple of photos are of homes out in areas that are not subdivided or larger parcels, and that last photo is an example of what a home in a subdivision would look like, where it's nicely paved, they control the drainage, and there's usually quite a bit of grass. So these are nice areas to live. This is an aerial shot of the terrain west of Highway 93 or west of Florence. This is mountainous terrain. Properties here are irregular shape, usually fairly large, 5-10 acre parcels. This is very wooded on this side, and there's a lot of really nice homes up in these woods. I would like to point out, though, that notice that the valleys going up into these mountains go east-west, which means that they can be in the shade all winter long. When the sun gets low in the south in the wintertime, it could cast a shadow into these valleys, making it very cold all winter long. You could go all winter in these valleys if you're not careful and never see the sun. But it is wooded. It's got a great view out to the east, looking at the Sapphire Mountains and out over the valley. And like I say, there's a lot of beautiful homes up here, and it's very wooded. So if that's your desire to live in a wooded area with maybe no neighbors and a large land area, this would be where you'd want to be. Well, since my last input, we've had a change of venue and a change of wardrobe, but here I am again. And interestingly, I want to point out a new listing just came up in the very eastern area of Florence that I mentioned was drier and higher. And these lots are probably a little more irregular in shape, but this listing just came up, so I thought it'd be interesting. It's a nice house way up in the hills, and it's for 1.3 million. So this gives you an idea of what kind of properties are available up in that area. Next stop on our tour of cities in the valley is Stevensville. You can see on this map that it's basically the third city down in the Bitterroot Valley from Lolo, Florence, and then Stevensville. And note that Stevensville is not on Highway 93. There's an off ramp, and it is about a mile east of 93. And it's a little different than the other cities, and it does have a really cute downtown area. You can see by these couple of photos that there are a lot of stores, a lot of Western style shopping area, and it's something that a lot of people like in this area, and is a good central business area for all the bedroom areas that we're going to talk about next. These two photos are pretty typical of what housing looks like in the central core area of Stevensville. It is an incorporated city, and the homes on the bottom photo are pretty much on the western side of the city, probably the older area where you have more undeveloped streets and older homes. And then the top photo is on the easterly side of the city, which is probably a little more modern and a little more developed. These next two maps that I'm going to show you are of the area east of Stevensville. So the first map is up to the northeast of Stevensville. And you can see again that there are a lot of rectangular lots in that area, but these are a little typically larger properties than I would say you can find in Florence and Lolo, although that's not a categorical statement. It just seems like the further south you go in the valley, the larger the properties get and the more irregular in shape they get. So this first map is the northeast area of the developed area east of Stevensville, and this next map is the area southeast of Stevensville. And you can see this does get up into the foothills. There are a lot of nice shaped properties, a lot of really nice custom homes out here. And if you really want to build a property or build a home, this would be a really nice area to do it. There are a lot of property available, and the views, even from down in the flat of the valley, the views up to the mountains, to the Bitterroot Mountains, are extraordinary. And you get up on the bench here, and you get really great views as well. This next aerial shot is of the terrain west of Stevensville, and actually west of the Highway 93. This is the foothills of the Bitterroot Mountains. And you can see that it pretty much slopes up immediately from Highway 93 up into on the alluvial plain, so to speak, where a lot of the homes are built. Nice farming areas, a lot of open acreage here, a lot of cattle grazing. But all the homes here have beautiful views out to the east, looking at the Sapphire Mountains. And the higher up you get into the wooded area. And a lot of people like the woods, but as I mentioned earlier, it can be cooler here. It gets darker early because it's on the east side of the western side of the valley, so you get shade there. It takes a little longer for the snow to melt when spring comes. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you can see in this one spot right here in this east-west valley that there's shade on the north side of this mountain. And this is a summer photo, but in the wintertime, you can tell that the shade here would extend all the way across this valley. So just something to think about. If you like the wooded side of the mountains, this would be a great place to find a property. There's lots of properties out here, and people really like it in that area, and it'd be a good place to spot your home. Our next stop south on Highway 93 is Victor, about maybe 15, 20 minutes south of Florence. You won't go through Stevensville on the way south because Stevensville is over on the East Side Highway. But Victor is another of these valley towns, very cute little downtown. It's only a block long, but it's got a couple of nice buildings in it. The city itself is unincorporated, but the residential area or the residential neighborhoods close in are very nice, very rural. The streets are paved, but no curb and gutter, and the houses are comfortable but older and typical of these, what I call a chain of cities coming down Highway 93. Now, also, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the east side and west side developments of Victor because I'd just be duplicating what I said about Florence, and I'm going to be talking about Corvallis in a minute. So Victor, I guess, sort of gets squeezed out between the development areas of Florence and Corvallis, and that's what I'll be talking about next. Let's talk about Corvallis. It is a great little town in the south end of the valley that's sort of the center of the surrounding developed area. It's about a mile east of Highway 93. So if you're driving from, say, Victor down to Hamilton, you won't go through Florence because it's over on the East Side Highway. But it's one of the original cities that was developed, and it's called the Heart of the Valley, as you can see by their little sign here. And it's fairly well developed. It's got a downtown area that's not fancy, but it's about 2 blocks long. It got some commercial businesses in it. It's got this Corvallis School District, a high school, junior high, and elementary schools within the town limits. And the residential homes in the what I call the inner city perimeter, even though this is not an incorporated town. The homes, as you can see here, are in uh, basically rural neighborhoods similar to the other little towns I've discussed. The streets are paved, but there's no curb and gutter. And the homes themselves are older but very comfortable and mostly well maintained. And the interesting thing about Corvallis is that there are or there is quite a lot of, or has been quite a lot of development around it in the way of subdivisions, and the larger properties are typically further out to the east and up to the west, although I wouldn't consider Corvallis going up to the west of Highway 93. Corvallis, it would be mostly everything to the east of Corvallis and then going up north towards and maybe merging with the Stevensville area on the north, and then the south, it'll start merging with the Hamilton zone area. Something that I found very interesting about the subdivisions in the county of Ravalli as compared to subdivisions in California, and that is that these subdivisions are really widely spread out. I mean, here a subdivision might be 1 acre parcels um, or half-acre parcels or whatever, but they are much more spread out and green and comfortable than whatever dealt with in California. And you can see by these 3 photos here of the different subdivisions around Corvallis. You can see the newer subdivision there has paving, curb and gutter, but the older subdivisions don't have curb and gutter. They're just paved, maybe gravel on the sides, but there's a lot of grass. That's one thing I noticed here is when in the summertime, all the grass is really green. These subdivisions, it's really amazing. But anyway, we're going to go to Hamilton next. They have subdivisions that are more like California, a little tighter in, but I guess that's because they're in the incorporated area of Hamilton. But Corvallis is a really neat area if you're looking for a home that can have a view up on the bench and be close into town and have the roads plowed pretty consistently in the winter and have a very convenient place to live. I would say anywhere along this eastern side of the valley that I've mentioned before that is more open and warmer would really be a good place to live. The next city on our tour is Hamilton. It is the cultural center of the valley, I would say, even though it's at the far south end of the valley. It's the county seat of county government for Ravalli County. Has a library and museums, and it's a pretty nice place to be. It's bifurcated into, I would call it 4 neighborhoods, with 93 running north-south and Highway 269 or the East Side Highway coming into town and running east-west. It divides the city up into 4 quadrants. The southwest is it's called the upscale custom home portion of the city with the more developed neighborhoods, older trees, really well-preserved homes. There's quite a few historic homes in this neighborhood. So if you can find a place to live here, it's really a nice place to live. Also, there's a federal government lab out in that area as well. Up in the north, it's called the northwest quadrant, which is north of Main Street. It's the more, let's call it competitive neighborhood, a little more sparse. So the homes are not quite as customized as in the south, but the streets are paved, and there are quite a few nice homes up here. And I think that this is probably more of let's call it a rental income area, although people might argue with me about that, but that seems to be what it is. And then in the northeast, you'll find neighborhoods. This is where the subdivisions are located that would be maybe similar to called LA County or Santa Barbara, California subdivisions. They're smaller lots closer together, but this is more of a typical development. And then in the south or in the southeast, it's again older homes. This is probably more of the uh, agricultural area that's been developed into homes, and it goes south and provides a real open, uh, rural type feel for homes. Downtown Hamilton is a delightful place year round. My wife tells me it's similar, it looks like a Hallmark movie set. Uh, and there's a lot that goes on down here. There's a uh, really great farmers market on Saturdays during the summer, and some good restaurants downtown. So it's a very vibrant place. A lot of they have parades at Christmas, at Halloween. I mean, all sorts of things like that. So it's really a great downtown area to be surrounded with these homes. I want to get back to a discussion of the types of homes you would find in the neighborhoods I discussed that were part of the basically original town of Hamilton, and that is in the southwest quadrant. You have these sort of custom homes that were built for people back in the 18 and early 1900s, wide streets with mature trees. And a lot of these homes are very well maintained, so some really good buys here if they do come on the market. And this last photo is more indicative of the kind of property you would see up in the northwest portion of town, where it's more affordable and a little more open. Now we'll expand our vision a little bit, go out to the easterly side of Hamilton, all the way up to the Sapphire Mountains. And you'll see out in this area, there's a lot more open land, farming, grazing, a lot of grasslands out here to be harvested for and put into those big rolls that they feed to the cows. But this area does have some upscale housing subdivisions down there by the golf course, big lots and very custom homes. And you'll see the stock farm here. This is what I would call the equivalent of Montecito in California, the Santa Barbara area. Big custom homes, gated community. Owners fly in and out of the Hamilton airport with their private jets and so on. So it's a nice area out here, but I don't think there's a lot of property out there that would be suitable for somebody just coming from California and looking for a place to live. In stark contrast to the east side of Hamilton, where there's really not much out there in the way of properties for sale, the west side is a very dynamic market. It goes up into the foothills and into the mountains of the Bitterroot Mountains. There are lots of roads up there, lots of properties that wind in and out amongst the valleys and mountains up there, lots of wooded area, and very interesting properties up in this area, and larger properties as well. There are not many, 1 acre parcels up there. But these areas, you get up there, get the right spot, you got a great view out over the Sapphire Mountains, out over the valley, out over Hamilton. And this zone sort of extends all the way down from Hamilton, all the way down to Darby, which I'll be getting to in a minute. But there's lots of custom homes up in here. And I think it's someplace that you might want to consider looking. Okay, this is the last stop on our trip down south through the valley. Darby is, in my opinion, the southern end of the valley, although there are a couple more towns south of here like Connors. But Darby is a very cute little town area, very active. It's got a good social program. and has parades and get-togethers all year long. Especially during the summer, it's really active due to all the traffic. But downtown Darby, as you can see by these photos, is probably most westernized looking downtown, maybe second after Stevensville, which has a nice downtown. Darby is really an authentic looking western downtown area, a couple good restaurants there. And in the summertime, just lots of people going through here. So these photos are pretty indicative of what the downtown looks like. And then another really important part of the Darby experience is the rodeo venue, which happens in the summer. Very popular and brings a lot of people to this area. These photos are indicative of what homes and the neighborhoods look like in the Darby, call it metropolitan area. Sort of wide open, paved streets, but no curbs and gutters. Homes are older, and but very comfortable living, and it's really a dynamic little community. And in a second here, we'll talk about the living areas outside the city. Finally, we'll take a look at the terrain east and west of Darby. And this first aerial photo is the east side of Darby, which would be the east side of the Bitterroot River. You can see here that there's not a lot of timber, a lot of grasslands and open space, not a lot of big properties or homes here until you get way south of this photo where the terrain opens up more to the east, and there's some big ranches south of here. But more importantly, on the west side, you can see that it's very mountainous, very timbered and forested. And this area is really popular for people who want to get away from it all. It's fairly easy to get up here. The roads are pretty good. In the wintertime, it can get a little tough, but you got to have somebody to plow the roads. But people like it up here because you're pretty much by yourself. And matter of fact, there's a lot of people out here that want to be off the grid. And there are properties when you get further to the west out towards the Idaho border where it becomes a little more remote. But the other thing is there's some recreational areas here. There's Lake Como, which is a real popular recreation area. It's one of these irrigation lakes that fills up in the spring and is empty by the fall. And there's also the Painted Rocks Lake, which is another one of these irrigation lakes that provide a good boating and fishing experience. So overall, Darby and this area at the very south end of the Bitterroot Valley is where you go to get away from it all. So when you go from starting from Lolo at the north, which is your bedroom community, to Missoula, all the way down to Hamilton, which is your sort of your county seat and the main cultural area for the valley, down here to Darby, where you come to play. So I hope this was helpful in understanding what the Bitterroot Valley is all about. And I would hope that you would call me to represent you if you're going to buy a property or if you want to sell a property. I can help you with that. And I look forward to dealing with you. Thank you.